Johnstown radio station WCRO is changing hands. A former employee, Bob Hamilton, is in the process of purchasing CRO from Century Broadcasting of Pennsylvania. Hamilton now lives in California. The purchase price is believed to be close to $500,000. The sale will be finalized upon Federal Communications Commission approval. It's a part of nearly everyone's daily life. It's a companion, a friend, a source of information. It's radio. Marty Radovanek looks at the show and the business of radio in a new Center 6 Extra, Dialing for Dollars.
I hope you are enjoying your lunch this Wednesday afternoon with Billy Joel. Here's his Uptown Girl from the new Key 95.
WFBG, Friday morning, waking up to those snow flurries, and it is something else. We call these blue northers where I come from, down in Texas.
WISC at 18 till 10 o'clock. Stick close and we'll get your AccuWeather forecast out for you.
There are different formats, different types of music, different types of personalities, but all of them share a common bond, communications. Radio was born in an age when there was no television. In its early days, it was a source of information and entertainment, which is exactly what it is today. It is also big business. Millions of dollars a year are spent on radio, and every radio station in the country is fighting for its share.
Everybody wants a slice of the pie, and it's really a numbers game when you come down to it, I guess. And you have to have a certain target that you're going after and concentrate on that. Nobody is going to get the whole pie. Those days are gone.
The competition right now is pretty intense. The competition between all the local radio stations for the local retail dollars. On top of that, there's now two local television stations working this market, and that's another slice of the pie that goes. And of course, there's always the local newspaper that has a certain amount that it gets on a regular basis. To survive, you have to be prepared to run with them. If you can't run with the competition, you're gonna lose.
Radio is very competitive, and you've got to do a good job and hit your target audience and go out and sell the sponsor on the fact that you are hitting that particular audience.
In order to get their share of the advertising pie, radio stations have to develop their own identity. That process leads to a fight for ratings. Everybody wants to be number one. We'll look at how they do that and just how important those ratings are tomorrow night. Marty Radovanek, News Center 6.
Radio stations are constantly battling for listeners and advertising dollars. It's a fierce competition, one that pits station owner against station owner, personality against personality. In part 2 of our Dialing for Dollars, Marty Radovanek looks at the battle that never ends.
Hundreds of millions of dollars are spent every year by people always looking for that special bargain. And every radio station in the country wants to be the source you'll depend on for that information. Every radio station on the air today needs those vital advertising dollars to survive. So every radio station decides on its target audience. That's called demographics. What it means is that radio stations go after a particular segment of their audience. Say men ages 18 to 34 or women 25 to 49. How they're doing is measured in the radio ratings, a survey of listener likes and dislikes.
We look at the ratings from a lot of different angles. The ratings are not gospel. They're a basis. They're a foundation that with other information you can consider an overview and draw some kind of conclusion.
Ratings are very important. I wish they were not quite as important. It's a two-edged sword. First of all, ratings tell you to a fair degree where you are. And so if you're going down, you're in a hurry to try and improve to get back up there. They do have an effect negatively, and sometimes you would like to do certain programs and programming. But if you feel you're serving a very small audience, it becomes dangerous. You say, my gosh, I can't afford financially to do this particular program because it may cost me some rating points, which will cost me dollars. So it inhibits a lot of innovation sometimes.
Ratings are as important now as they ever were. Well, probably more important now than they were, in the past. It's just radio's become very competitive. There are, I don't know how many more stations on the air now than there were in, when I started in the 60s, but I'm sure, I think it's safe to say that the number has doubled So ratings are probably more important now than they ever were.
While there might be some room for argument on just how important the ratings are, the radio bosses we talked to all agreed that it is very important to have a good on-air sound. And a key to that is the radio personality with a disc jockey. We'll look at the pilots of the airwaves tomorrow night. Marty Radovanek, News Center 6.
Disc jockey, announcer, air personality. By any name, they are the men and women who make up the backbone of any radio station. They can be live or recorded on tape. They are the stars of the show, and they know it. Marty Radovanek looks at these pilots of the airwaves in part 3 of Dialing for Dollars.
There's a handful of them, thank goodness there's still a handful of them around, but it's just a handful. It used to be radio, that was the thing in radio. Everybody identified with the announcer. The announcer was, you know, he was a showman, and radio stations hired announcers because of their showmanship ability.
She's an uptown girl, my uptown girl. Ba-doom-doom-doo. She's an uptown girl in love with this downtown guy, the infamous Jim Burton on Key 95 FM.
To communicate, to entertain people, and to communicate a sense that you are with that person, that the performer is right there in that same room with them. When people turn on their radios, if you can make them feel like you're part of their life, you're in there with them, sharing whatever they're doing, that's when you have succeeded.
Have you ever been threatened? Not since the divorce.
Radio personalities are a rare breed. In the major markets like New York and Chicago, they're better known than even the local politicians, and a lot are more controversial. But there are also some superstars in small market radio, especially in State College and Altoona. 38-year-old Sean McKay is the morning man at WFPG Radio in Altoona. His Good Morning Show is the highest-rated radio program in the Mountain City, and it's also the most controversial.
Abrasive is another word people use, and obnoxious.
Why?
I don't like getting up in the mornings, to be honest with you. I hate getting up in the mornings.
Then why do you do morning radio?
They won't give me another shift. It's either this or be out of a job.
You were talking about a former employee this morning.
Our former sports director.
Yeah.
They fired him.
Why?
He wasn't any good.
If someone came to you and said, hey, Sean McKay, I want to get in this business, what would you tell them?
Stay away. Stay away.
Why?
Stay away. Bad wages, long hours. You don't get weekends off. You don't get holidays off. You don't make enough money. There's no security. You're only as good as your last show. No, I'd say stay out of the business.
More on the stars of radio tomorrow with a look at Wendy and Kevin of WRSC State College. Marty Radovanek, News Center 6.